Well, I'm telling you stories about our life in the mission on the mission field and in Mexico specifically. And I hope that you're sharing some of the videos and maybe other people will subscribe to the channel. I just want to help encourage young men and women to be missionaries. It's a lot of fun. Scary, but maybe some of the stories will help relieve some of the fear. When we signed up, we were going to learn Spanish. There were three language schools that we had heard about. One was in Costa Rica. I didn't want to go there because I was nervous about maybe some relationships with missionaries that might not be like I believed. And there was one in Texas called Rio Grande, and I didn't want to go there because you could speak English and get away with it. And there was a BBF language school down in Querétaro. And so I decided to go to Querétaro to language school. So I contacted them. We got accepted. And they told us they'd figure out where we would live. Well, all of this is going to end up being the hand of God like you're not going to believe. I mean, God put us in that house. God gave me, the owner of that house, Alberto, as the best friend, one of the best friends I've ever had in my entire life. A man who helped make me into a Spanish-speaking preacher. And so I still love him. I just visit him in Mexico if you keep up with what goes on here on this channel. But I didn't know him yet. So we arrived, and they take us over the first night and they show us our house to let us see what it's like. We had the largest family, so we had the largest house. We had 3 bedrooms and a little patio. And so the next day, the lady that was in charge of the language school and the missionary that was in charge of the church decided, they told us, we're going to take all you missionaries to 2 furniture stores tomorrow. Now, these stores are humongous. They're like the size of a big Walmart. And this is way back in 1987. And she said, you will buy everything for your entire house today. Now, we didn't have to take the house that she offered to us. She said, if you don't like the house I've got for you, go find your own. But I don't speak any Spanish. I'm scared to death. I've never been out of the country. I don't know what I'm doing. So I said, we'll take the house. I'm not arguing. So then she said, you're going to buy all your stuff in one day. Now, you got to understand, I grew up a country boy using an outhouse. I grew up in a 4-room shack until about the 10th or 11th grade when Mom and Dad finally built a nice house with running water and all the niceties of life, 2 bathrooms inside the house. I couldn't believe it. And so when they told me I'd buy all the furniture in one day, I'm like, that's no problem. I'd buy whatever's out there. But Betty comes out of a kind of a finer family, an uppity family, and Betty's like, what? I got to buy it all in one day. I don't get to look around. I don't get to shop for values. We're only going to be there 1 year. So they said, just buy something to get by for the year. And so, okay, we go to the store, and in one day, we buy a refrigerator. I think we bought a refrigerator. Maybe we didn't buy a refrigerator. Washing machine, beds, couches, table, even down to plates and silverware that whatever Betty didn't bring, we bought it all in one day and had it delivered to our house in the next day or so, and we were finally set up in our house. Now, you got to understand, this is like radically different to anything we've ever done. So a key word for every missionary to always know and understand is flexibility. In other words, you have to be flexible. You have to learn to adapt. That's the secret to being a good missionary. In fact, as I used to tell folks on the mission field when I lived in Peru, I said, a better word's fluid, because you just got to go with the flow. Whatever's happening, you're going to have to put up with it. And that's how we bought our first furniture. Well, we moved into the house, and the stairs that were going up, David was 1 year old, and the stairs didn't have any rails on the side because the owner, my very good friend, he didn't have small children. And so I told the lady that ran the language school, we got to do something about that. So he came over, and they built a little, like a railing to go along there. And I tried my best to talk to him, but it was to no avail. We had rented a house and moved in like 48 hours. We had all of our stuff 48 hours. We did not know what we were doing. It was all brand new. So I thank God, number one, for the people that ran the language school and the missionary, because they cared enough to help us get set up. I thank God for a wife that was willing to go along with me and whatever it is I asked her to do so that we could be more established and get ready to learn the language. I guess I'll tell you this one here before I close out today's session. I can't remember. I can't remember if it was Saturday right before Sunday so that we could go to church. Somebody came over to the house and they said, follow me. And me and a guy who lived across the way and another, he lived in a motor home. It was a big old Greyhound bus type deal that he converted. And so we followed them to the church. Now you got to understand, I don't speak any language. I've never been around people outside of American, English speaking rednecks. That's where I come from. And so we follow them to church and come back home. And they said, can you find a church? I said, well, I have no idea. So Sunday morning, they took us back to church. And Sunday afternoon, me and my buddy, we tried to find the church for nearly 3 hours. There was no Waze, no GPS, no Google Maps back then. And every sign looked the same and every road sign seemed to say the same thing. And it was all just crazy for me. But we finally made it. And we learned. I just want to tell you that it is scary, but it's an adventure. And the living of the Christian life is an adventure. It is, man, God has big things for you. This is a tremendous thing you get to do. So I hope that you'll take the time to learn how to be whatever it is God's calling you to do, and don't give up. Don't get scared. Don't live in fear. Step out into the unknown and experience all the great things God has for you.